The great hall of the Galactic Council stretched for miles in every direction. Crystal pillars reached toward a ceiling that showed the swirling colors of the galaxy beyond. Representatives from hundreds of worlds sat in their designated areas, each species keeping to their own kind. The air hummed with translation devices working overtime to convert thousands of different languages into something everyone could understand. Commander Zektar shifted uncomfortably in his seat. His thick gray skin was not made for the cold atmosphere that most species preferred. The Vorthak were a young race, barely 300 years into space travel. They had earned their place on the Council through military might and stubborn determination. But there were still so many things about galactic society that confused him. "The motion to establish mining rights in the Kepler sector is approved," announced Elder Thisara, her crystalline body catching the light from a dozen different angles. The ethereals had been the first species to achieve faster-than-light travel, and they still acted like they owned the galaxy. "Are there any other matters to discuss?" Zektar stood up. His massive frame cast a shadow across several smaller delegates. "I have a question." The hall fell silent. Young species rarely spoke during council sessions. They were expected to listen and learn. "Speak," Elder Thisara said, though her tone suggested she would rather he didn't. "The Sol System," Zektar began. "Why is it forbidden? My people have been members of this council for 50 years, and we still don't understand this rule." A ripple of unease passed through the assembly. Some delegates turned to look at Zektar with expressions that ranged from surprise to fear. Others simply stared at their hands or tentacles or whatever they used for manipulating objects. "The rule exists for good reason," said Hive Mind Node 7 of the collective. The speaker looked like a normal humanoid, but Zektar knew it was just one body controlled by billions of minds working together. "It has kept the galaxy safe for 3,000 years. Safe from what?" Zektar pressed. "The records show that humans went into something called the Great Sleep long ago. But there are no details, no explanations, just warnings to stay away." An elderly member of the Luminous floated forward. These beings were pure energy held together by technology that no one else understood. When they spoke, their voice sounded like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "Some knowledge is too dangerous to share," the Luminous said. "Some mistakes are too terrible to repeat." "But that's not an answer," Zektar replied. "My people are warriors. We don't fear the unknown, we conquer it. If there's a threat in the Sol system, tell us what it is. Let us help you deal with it." This caused an even bigger stir. Several delegates started talking at once. The translation devices couldn't keep up with all the overlapping conversations. "Silence!" Elder Thisara's voice cut through the noise like a blade. "The Sol system is off limits. This rule is absolute. It is not up for debate." "Why?" Zektar demanded. "What aren't you telling us?" For a long moment, no one spoke. Then a new voice joined the conversation. It came from the communication system itself, artificial and cold. "Watcher Network Node 1 speaking," the voice announced. "Commander Zektar of the Vorthak Empire. Your questions approach forbidden territory. Continued pursuit of this topic will result in sanctions against your species." Zektar had heard of the Watchers, but had never spoken to one directly. These artificial intelligences monitored the Sol system constantly. They sent warnings to any ship that came too close. They also seemed to have unlimited access to galactic communication networks, which should have been impossible. "Who built you?" Zektar asked. "Who gave you the authority to threaten member species of this council?" "That information is classified," the Watcher replied. "Return to your designated topics of discussion." The AI's dismissal sparked anger in Zektar's chest. His people had fought for their place in galactic society. They had earned the right to ask questions. "We joined this council as equals," he said, his voice growing louder, "not as children to be protected from scary stories." Elder Thisara rose from her seat. Her crystalline body began to glow with internal light, a sign that she was becoming agitated. "Commander, you don't understand what you're asking about," she said. "The last time humans were awake, they nearly destroyed everything. The war that followed changed the galaxy forever." "What war?" Zektar asked. "There's no record of any war involving humans." "Because we made sure there wouldn't be," Hive Mind Node 7 said quietly. "Some memories are too dangerous to preserve." The luminous delegate drifted closer to Zektar. "Young Commander, your species is brave and strong. But bravery without wisdom leads to disaster. The humans taught us that lesson in the most painful way possible." "Tell me what happened," Zektar said. "I'm tired of riddles and warnings. Give me facts." The three elder species exchanged glances. Even without being able to read their alien expressions, Zektar could tell they were communicating in ways he couldn't detect. "Very well," Elder Thisara said finally, "but understand that what we tell you must never leave this chamber, and your species must swear to uphold the soul system prohibition no matter what." Zektar nodded eagerly. 3,000 years ago, humans were awake and active in galactic society, the ethereal began. They were relatively new to space travel, much like your people are now. At first, they seemed harmless enough. Curious, energetic, but not particularly threatening. "What changed?" Zektar asked. "We did," Hive Mind Node 7 admitted. "The elder races made a mistake. We tried to guide them, to shape their development. We thought we knew better." The Luminous took over the story. "Humans didn't respond to guidance the way other species do. When we tried to limit their expansion, they found ways around our restrictions. When we tried to share our knowledge gradually, they learned everything we taught them and improved upon it." "That sounds like good traits for a species to have," Zektar observed. "In moderation, yes," Elder Thisara said. "But humans don't do anything in moderation. When they decide to accomplish something, they throw everything they have at the problem. Their entire species, their entire civilization, all focused on a single goal. And when we finally pushed them too far," the Luminous continued, "that goal became our destruction." Zektar felt a chill run down his spine. "What did you do to them?" "The ethereals tried to pacify one of their colony worlds," Hive Mind Node 7 explained. "We thought if we could reduce their aggression, make them more peaceful, it would benefit everyone." "The humans saw it as an attack on their free will," Elder Thisara said. "They developed weapons specifically designed to kill ethereals. Weapons that turned our own psychic abilities against us. In 6 months, they wiped out 17 of our worlds. The collective attempted to contain them by assimilating their border colonies," Node 7 continued. "We thought bringing them into our hive mind would calm their violent tendencies. Instead, they created a virus that nearly destroyed our entire network," the AI admitted. "Billions of minds lost in an instant. The collective still hasn't fully recovered." Zektar looked at the Luminous representative. "And your people?" "We tried to reason with them," the energy being said sadly. "We offered them technology, knowledge, anything they wanted if they would just stop fighting. They took everything we offered," Elder Thisara said, "and used it to build weapons we had never imagined, planet killers that could destroy entire star systems." The hall had become completely silent. Even the usual background noise of the translation devices had stopped. "How did you stop them?" Zektar asked quietly. "We didn't," Hive Mind Node 7 said. "They stopped themselves. The war had been going on for decades," the Luminous explained. "Billions were dead on all sides. The galaxy was burning. And then, suddenly, the humans sent a message to all elder races." "What did it say?" Zektar whispered. "We're tired," Elder Thisara quoted. "That's all, just those 2 words. They proposed the Great Sleep," Node 7 continued. "They would put their entire species into stasis, In exchange, we would preserve their worlds and their civilization. When they woke up, we would try again to coexist peacefully. And you agreed? Zektar asked. What choice did we have? The Luminous said. The alternative was the complete destruction of galactic civilization. But that was 3,000 years ago, Zektar pointed out. Surely they've changed by now. Surely they've learned from their mistakes. The three elder representatives looked at each other again. That's what we're hoping, Elder Thisara said quietly. But we don't know, and we're too afraid to find out. The Watchers monitor the Sol system constantly, Node 7 explained. If the humans ever start to wake up naturally, we'll have, warning, time to prepare. Prepare for what? Zektar asked. War, the Luminous said simply. Or evacuation. We haven't decided which would be better. Zektar sat back down heavily. This was not what he had expected to learn. So the greatest military threat in galactic history is just sleeping? Yes, Elder Thisara confirmed, and we intend to keep it that way. What if someone accidentally wakes them up? Zektar asked. That's why the Watchers exist, Node 7 said. That's why we have the prohibition. That's why any ship that even approaches the Sol system is immediately intercepted and turned away. What would happen if someone did? Zektar pressed. Silence fell over the chamber again. This time it lasted for several minutes. We don't know, Elder Thisara finally admitted, but we pray to our gods that we never have to find out. The council session ended shortly after that. As delegates began filing out of the Great Hall, Zektar remained in his seat, thinking about what he had learned. The humans were sleeping. They had been sleeping for 3,000 years, and the entire galaxy lived in fear of the day they might wake up. He thought about his own people, the Vorthak. They were proud warriors who had fought their way to the stars. They feared nothing and no one. But even they had never faced an entire species that could make the elder races tremble with just the memory of past conflicts. As he finally stood to leave, Zektar made a mental note to review everything the Vorthak archives contained about humans. If these sleeping giants ever did wake up, he wanted his people to be ready. Behind him, the Great Hall's lights began to dim. In the distance, the Watchers continued their silent vigil over a system that held either the galaxy's greatest threat or its greatest hope. No one was quite sure which. Captain Vexilon cursed in 3 different languages as another explosion rocked his ship. The Bone Crusher was a Korthak hegemony raider, built for speed and intimidation rather than durability. Right now, both were failing him spectacularly. Engineering. Report! He shouted over the alarm klaxons that filled the bridge with their horrible wailing. Hyperdrive core is cracked, Captain, reported his chief engineer, a scarred veteran named Griktos. We're bleeding exotic matter all over space. If we don't shut it down soon, the whole ship will implode. Vexilon's 4 eyes narrowed as he studied the tactical display. Behind them, a fleet of Nexari patrol ships was closing fast. The raid on their mining station had been a disaster from the start. The Nexari had been better prepared than expected, and the Korthak raiders had barely escaped with their lives. How long until the hyperdrive fails completely? Vexilon asked. Maybe 10 minutes, Griktos replied. Maybe less. The captain's claws drummed against his command chair. The Korthak were a predator species, evolved from pack hunters on a hostile world. They understood survival instincts better than most. Right now, those instincts were screaming at him to run. Plot a jump to any system, he ordered. I don't care where. Just get us away from the Nexari. His navigator, a young female named Sixara, worked frantically at her console. Sir, the hyperdrive is too unstable for precise navigation. We could end up anywhere within a 50 light-year radius. Better than ending up dead, Vexilon growled. Do it. The ship lurched as another piece of equipment exploded somewhere in the engineering section. On the tactical display, the Nexari ships were getting closer. Their weapons would be in range in less than 5 minutes. Hyperdrive spun up, Captain. Sixara reported. But sir, I'm getting some kind of interference. There's something wrong with the navigation computer. Wrong how? It keeps trying to plot a course to a specific system, she said, confusion clear in her voice. The computer won't accept any other destination. Vexilon moved to look over her shoulder. The navigation display showed a course leading to a small, unremarkable star system. According to the charts, it contained several planets but no intelligent life. Where is that? He asked. Sixara checked the star charts. The locals call it Sol. It's listed as off-limits, but there's no explanation why. Warning lights flashed across every console on the bridge. The hyperdrive was about to fail catastrophically. Captain, Grictos called out. We need to jump now or we're all dead. Vexilon looked at the approaching Nexari fleet, then at the mysterious system on the navigation display. In Korthak culture, a warrior faced death head-on rather than running from it. But a smart warrior also knew when to live to fight another day. Jump, he ordered. The bone crusher vanished from normal space, just as the Nexari weapons opened fire. For a moment, everything was quiet except for the usual humming of the hyperdrive. Then the ship began to shake violently. What's happening? Vexilon demanded. The hyperdrive is tearing itself apart, Grictos reported. We're going to drop out of hyperspace whether we want to or not. How long? 30 seconds. Vexilon grabbed the nearest safety restraint as the ship bucked like a wild animal. Through the bridge windows, he could see the weird colors of hyperspace beginning to fade. All hands, brace for emergency exit, he announced over the ship's communication system. The bone crusher dropped back into normal space with a violence that sent half the crew flying. Sparks erupted from overloaded circuits. Emergency lighting cast everything in a hellish red glow. Damage report, Vexilon called out as soon as he could speak again. Hyperdrive is completely dead, Grictos said. Life support is stable, but weapons and shields are offline. We're basically flying in a straight line until we hit something. Where are we? The captain asked. Sixara was already working on that. Question. The Sol system, sir, just like the computer predicted. Vexilon looked at the main screen, which showed a yellow star surrounded by several planets. It looked peaceful enough. I thought you said this system was off-limits. It is, sir, but I don't see any patrol ships or defense platforms. That was when the first warning message arrived. Unknown vessel, you have entered restricted space, said a voice that was clearly artificial. Turn around immediately and leave this system. Who? Is this? Vexilon responded. This is Watcher Network Node 47. You are in violation of Galactic Treaty 777. Depart immediately or face consequences. The captain laughed bitterly. Our hyperdrive is dead. We're not going anywhere. A pause. Then, scanning your vessel. Confirmed hyperdrive failure. Dispatching containment units. Containment units? Sixara asked nervously. Her question was answered when a dozen sleek silver ships appeared on their sensors. They moved with a precision that no living pilot could match. Unknown vessel, you will be escorted to the edge of the system for emergency repairs, the Watcher announced. Any attempt to approach the inner planets will result in your destruction. Vexilon studied the approaching ships. They were smaller than the bone crusher, but there were a lot of them, and his weapons were offline. Understood, he said. We'll cooperate. But as the Watcher ships moved into escort formation, one of them suddenly veered off course. Sparks flew from its hull as internal systems failed. Node 47 to all. Units, the AI announced, its voice now carrying a note of concern. I'm detecting cascade failures in units 12 through 18. Unknown cause. More Watcher ships began to malfunction. Some simply stopped moving. Others started spinning out of control. What's happening to them? Sixara asked. Grictos looked up from his engineering console with a worried expression. Sir, I think it's our fault. The exotic matter leak from our hyperdrive is interfering with their systems. Vexilon watched as another Watcher ship went dark. "How long before they recover?" "Unknown, sir. This kind of interference could last for hours or days. The AI seemed to have reached the same conclusion. Unknown vessel, your presence is causing system-wide failures. You will be destroyed to prevent further contamination." The remaining functional Watcher ships turned toward the Bone Crusher with obvious hostile intent. "Sir," Sixera called out urgently, "I'm reading massive gravity wells. Ahead, it's the third planet in the system. If we can reach its atmosphere, the Watchers won't be able to follow us down." "Why not? They're designed for space operations only, too fragile for atmospheric flight." Vexilon made a quick decision. "All power to engines. Take us down." The Bone Crusher accelerated toward the blue-green world ahead of them. Behind them, the Watcher ships opened fire, but most of their shots went wide. The exotic matter interference was affecting their targeting. "Systems 2, entering atmosphere," Sixara reported. "Sir, I don't think our heat shields can handle this kind of descent." "Do what you can," Vexilon ordered. The ship screamed through the atmosphere like a falling star. Outside the bridge windows, everything was fire and smoke. Hull plates began to buckle under the stress. "Find us a place to land," the captain shouted. "There," Sixara pointed at a large continent below them. "That looks like open ground." The Bone Crusher hit the surface with enough force to create a crater. The impact threw everyone on the bridge against their restraints. Systems that had survived, the hyperspace accident finally gave up and died. For a long moment, the only sound was the settling of twisted metal and the hiss of escaping gases. "Is everyone alive?" Vexilon asked. Weak voices answered from around the bridge. They had survived, but barely. Grictos worked at his damaged console. "Sir, the impact has triggered some kind of automated response. I'm reading massive power signatures all across the planet." "What kind of power signatures?" "Unknown. But whatever's generating them was sleeping until we crashed." High above them, the remaining Watcher ships had stopped their attack. Instead, they were broadcasting the same message over and over again on all frequencies. "Emergency alert to all. Galactic civilizations," the artificial voice announced. "Containment breach in the Sol system. The sleepers are beginning to wake. All species implement emergency exodus protocols immediately. This is not a drill. Deep beneath the surface of the planet, in vast chambers that stretched for thousands of miles, machines that had been dormant for 3,000 years suddenly came to life. Lights flickered on in endless rows. Computers began running diagnostic programs. And slowly, very slowly, billions of stasis pods started their warming cycles. Vexilon had no idea what he had just set in motion. He was focused on keeping his crew alive on an alien world. But across the galaxy, entire civilizations were about to receive the most terrifying news possible. The humans were waking up. In the first stasis facility to come online, a pod near the center of the complex began to hiss as its occupant stirred. The nameplate on the pod read, "Dr. Sarah Chen, Xenobiologist." She had gone to sleep 3,000 years ago, believing she would wake up in a few hundred years to a healed world. She had no idea that her awakening would change everything. Dr. Sarah Chen's first sensation upon waking was cold, bone-deep, aching cold that made her teeth chatter before her eyes had even opened. The second sensation was confusion. The stasis pod was supposed to wake her gently, with warm air and soft lights. Instead, she felt like she had been dumped into an ice bath. She forced her eyes open and immediately regretted it. Bright white lights blazed overhead, making her head pound. Emergency alarms were blaring somewhere in the distance, and she could hear the hum of machinery working overtime. "Status report," she croaked, her voice barely a whisper. "Dr. Chen, you are experiencing an emergency wake-up sequence," replied the computer's calm voice. "Please remain calm while systems come online." Emergency wake-up. Sarah tried to remember why that would happen. The stasis program was designed to last for 200 years while Earth recovered from the ecological disasters of the late 21st century. She had been one of 10,000 volunteers who had agreed to sleep through the worst of the climate crisis and wake up when the planet was habitable again. "How long was I asleep?" she asked. 3,000, 47 years, 6 months, and 12 days, the computer replied. Sarah's blood went cold for reasons that had nothing to do with the temperature. "That's impossible." Confirming data. "You entered stasis on March 15th, 2157. Current date is September 27th, 5204. 3,000 years. She had been asleep for 3,000 years. "Where is everyone else?" she asked, struggling to sit up in the pod. "Mass awakening protocol is in progress. Estimated completion time for full facility revival is 72 hours. Sarah looked around the chamber for the first time. What she saw made her gasp. The stasis facility she remembered had contained 10,000 pods arranged in neat rows. The chamber she was in now seemed to stretch forever in all directions. Instead of 10,000 pods, there were millions, maybe billions. Computer. How? Many people are in stasis? Current population of Earth stasis facilities, 4.7 billion individuals. Sarah's mind reeled. When she had gone to sleep, Earth's population had been around 8 billion. Even accounting for the ecological disasters, there should have been more people awake than asleep. What happened to the rest of the population? Data restricted. Please report to Command Center Alpha for briefing. The pod finally finished its wake-up cycle and opened completely. Sarah stepped out on unsteady legs and found a set of clothes waiting for her. They were simple gray coveralls, but they fit perfectly. As she dressed, she noticed that her body felt different, stronger, healthier than she had been when she entered stasis. Computer, have I been medically treated during stasis? Affirmative. Standard life extension and genetic repair treatments have been applied. Your biological age has been reset to 25 years. That explained why she felt so good despite sleeping for 3 millennia, but it raised new questions. The technology for genetic repair had been experimental when she went to sleep. How had it become standard? Sarah made her way through corridors, filled with other newly awakened people. They all looked confused and scared. Many were asking the same questions she had asked. How long had they been asleep? Why were they waking up now? What had happened to the world? Command Center Alpha turned out to be a massive room filled with screens and control stations. Most of the equipment looked far more advanced than what Sarah remembered from her time. A few dozen people were already there, all wearing the same gray coveralls. "Dr. Chen?" A tall man with dark skin approached her. "I'm Dr. Marcus Webb, formerly of the Mars Colonial Project. I woke up about an hour ago." Mars Colonial Project? Sarah remembered that program. It had been in the early planning stages when she entered stasis. Did we actually colonize Mars? According to the computer, yes, along with dozens of other worlds. Marcus gestured at one of the large screens. The solar system is apparently full of human colonies now. Sarah looked at the display and felt her jaw drop. The screen showed a 3-dimensional map of the solar system. Mars had several large cities marked on its surface. The asteroid belt was crisscrossed with mining stations and habitats. Even Jupiter's moons showed signs of human habitation. "How is this possible?" she whispered. "That's what we're trying to figure out," said another voice. Sarah turned to see a woman with short blonde hair walking toward them. "I'm Captain Linda Torres, formerly of the Earth Defense Force, though I'm not sure what I'm defending against after 3,000 years. More awakened humans gathered around them. Sarah listened as they shared their stories. A scientist from the Antarctic Research Station, an engineer from the Lunar Gateway Project, a diplomat who had been working on first contact protocols for when humanity eventually met alien life. "Wait," Sarah said suddenly. "First contact protocols? Did we ever meet aliens?" The question hung in the air for a moment before the computer's voice filled the room. Data regarding extraterrestrial contact is restricted pending security clearance verification. Security clearance? Captain Torres demanded. From who? Who's been running things while we were asleep? Earth has been administered by the automated governance system for the past 3,000 years. All major decisions have been made in accordance with pre-stasis directives. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. Computer, show us current Earth conditions. The main screen changed to show a view of Earth from orbit. What Sarah saw took her breath away. The planet was beautiful. Oceans sparkled blue and clear. Continents were covered in green forests and grasslands. Cities dotted the landscape, but they looked different from what she remembered. Cleaner, more organic, like they had grown rather than been built. It's perfect, Marcus whispered. Too perfect, Torres said grimly. Where are all the people? Current surface population of Earth, 0, the computer announced. The room fell silent. Sarah stared at the screen showing the empty paradise above them. Computer, what happened to the people who didn't enter stasis? Data restricted. Why? Is everything restricted? Torres shouted. Security protocols are in place pending proper authorization. Please wait for administrative personnel to arrive. What administrative personnel? Sarah asked. Before the computer could answer, alarms began blaring throughout the facility. Red lights flashed as emergency warnings scrolled across every screen. Attention all personnel, the computer announced. Unknown alien contact has been detected on the surface. First contact protocols are now in effect. Sarah exchanged glances with the others. Aliens? Here? The main screen switched to a surface view. In the distance, smoke was rising from what looked like a crash site. As they watched, shapes began moving around the wreckage. Those don't look human, Marcus observed. Captain Torres stepped forward, her military training taking over. Computer, do we have any weapons? Negative. Earth has been a demilitarized zone for 3,000 years. Demilitarized by who? Torres. Demanded. Data restricted. Another screen lit up, showing what appeared to be a news broadcast. But the language wasn't English, or any human language Sarah recognized. The images showed massive space fleets moving through star systems, whole planets being evacuated, panic in the streets of alien cities. Computer, translate that broadcast. Translation. Follows. Emergency bulletin from the Galactic Council. Containment breach confirmed in the Sol system. Human awakening detected. All civilizations initiate exodus protocols immediately. Repeat, the humans are waking up. This is not a drill. The room erupted in confused voices as everyone tried to talk at once. Sarah raised her hand for silence. Computer, she said carefully. Are we considered a threat by these alien civilizations? Data indicates that humanity's awakening has caused significant concern among galactic governments. Why would they be afraid of us? Data restricted pending security clearance. Torres slammed her fist against a control panel. Enough with the restrictions. People are scared and confused, and we need answers. Dr. Chen, Marcus said quietly. Look at this. He was standing in front of a terminal that showed personnel, files. Sarah joined him and saw her own file displayed on the screen. But there was additional information she didn't remember authorizing. Genetic modifications, combat training, tactical analysis scores. She read aloud. Marcus, I was a xenobiologist studying plant genetics. Why would I have combat training scores? Marcus pulled up his own file. Same here. According to this, I'm certified in zero-gravity warfare and advanced weapons systems. But I was a terraforming engineer. One by one, the other awakened humans checked their files. Every single person had been modified, trained, and enhanced during their time in stasis. They were no longer the same people who had gone to sleep 3,000 years ago. Computer, Sarah said, her voice shaking. What were we being prepared for? Defense of human space against potential threats. What threats? Data indicates a 97.3% probability of hostile first contact scenarios based on historical precedent. Captain Torres looked up from her own file. Historical precedent? Computer? Have humans fought aliens before? A long pause. Then, affirmative. Previous conflict resulted in mutual ceasefire agreement and human voluntary stasis program. The truth hit Sarah like a physical blow. They hadn't gone to sleep to wait out climate change. They had gone to sleep to end a war. We were the threat, she whispered. The aliens weren't afraid of meeting us. They were afraid of us waking up. The main screen showed the crash site again. This time, they could see the aliens more clearly. They looked reptilian, with gray skin and multiple eyes. They seemed to be injured and trying to repair their ship. Computer, are those aliens hostile? Current alien presence appears to be accidental. However, their ship's crash landing has triggered automatic awakening protocols across all facilities. Sarah made a decision that would change everything. We need to help them. Help them? Torres asked incredulously. Sarah, if what the computer is saying is true, we fought a war. Against aliens. They might be our enemies. Look at them. Sarah pointed at the screen. They're hurt and stranded. If we're going to break 3,000 years of hostility, we have to start somewhere. She turned to address the room. I know this is confusing and scary. We all woke up in a different world than we expected. But we have a choice. We can be the same people who apparently scared the entire galaxy into hiding, or we can be something better. And if they try to kill us? Torres asked. Sarah looked at her enhanced personnel file, with its combat training and tactical scores. She didn't remember earning. Then I guess we'll find out why the galaxy was so afraid of us in the first place. The computer's voice interrupted her thoughts. Dr. Chen, incoming priority message from Galactic Council. Put it through. The screen flickered, then showed an alien face. It was crystalline, with light moving through its transparent features. When it spoke, the translation software made its voice sound ancient and tired. Humans of Earth. The alien said, This is Elder Thisara of the Ethereal Collective. We know you are awakening. We know our people have made contact. We ask that you remember the peace we built together. Please do not let old hatreds destroy what took so long to create. The transmission ended, leaving the humans staring at a blank screen. Old hatreds, Marcus repeated. What did we do to them? Sarah was already moving toward the exit. I don't know, but I'm going to find out. And I'm going to make sure we do better this time. As she left the command center, Sarah didn't know that billions of other humans were waking up across the planet. She didn't know that fleets of alien ships were already fleeing to the edges of the galaxy. And she didn't know that the choice she was about to make would determine whether humanity would be welcomed back into galactic society or whether the entire galaxy would unite to destroy them before they could become a threat again. All she knew was that somewhere on the surface, injured aliens needed help, and she was going to give it to them no matter what the consequences might be. The journey to the surface took Sarah and her small team through corridors that told the story of 3,000 years in sleeping humanity. Automated systems had maintained everything perfectly. Gardens flourished under artificial suns. Libraries contained the accumulated knowledge of human civilization, constantly updated by AI systems that never slept. Captain Torres walked beside Sarah, along with Marcus and 3 other awakened humans who had volunteered to make first contact. They rode in a transport vehicle that moved through underground tunnels at incredible speed. Dr. Chen, Torres said quietly, I've been thinking about our files, the combat training, the enhancements. What if we're not the same people we used to be? Sarah had been wondering the same thing. She felt different, stronger, faster, more alert than she remembered being. When she moved, it was with a precision and grace that seemed to come from somewhere deep in her muscle memory. The training programs would have been designed to preserve our personalities, she replied. We're still us. Just more capable. More dangerous, you mean? Sarah nodded grimly. Maybe, but that's exactly why we need to prove we can be trusted. The transport emerged onto the surface through a hidden entrance disguised as a hill. Sarah's first breath of Earth air in 3,000 years was sweet and clean. The sky was a perfect blue dotted with white clouds. In the distance, she could see a forest that looked like something from a fairy tale. It really is paradise, Marcus murmured. An empty paradise, Torres reminded him. Computer, where is everyone who was living on the surface when we went to sleep? Data restricted. Torres cursed under her breath. I'm getting really tired of hearing that. They found the crash site about 2 miles from their emergence point. The alien ship had carved a deep furrow in the ground before coming to rest in a grove of trees. Smoke was still rising from its damaged hull. Biosigns indicate 5 survivors, Sarah's enhanced senses told her, though she wasn't sure how she knew that. 2 are seriously injured. As they approached the wreckage, they could hear voices speaking in an alien language. The translation software in their heads provided a running commentary. The hyperdrive core is completely destroyed, one voice was saying. We're stranded here. What about the distress beacon? Asked another. I activated it, but who's going? To come. Every ship in the galaxy is probably fleeing from us right now. Sarah stepped into view, her hands raised to show she was unarmed. We're here to help. The aliens reacted with immediate panic. These were the Korthak, she realized, matching. Their appearance to data files she somehow had access to. Predator species, evolved from pack hunters. Dangerous, but honorable according to their cultural profile. The largest of the aliens, wearing what appeared to be a captain's uniform, moved protectively in front of his injured crewmates, his 4 eyes fixed on Sarah with a mixture of fear and defiance. Stay back, human, he growled. We know what your species is capable of. So do I, apparently, Sarah said calmly. But right now, I'm more interested in what we're capable of becoming. She gestured to Marcus, who was carrying a medical kit. We have supplies that can help your injured. We're not here to fight. Korthak Captain's eyes narrowed. You're not going to take us prisoner? Interrogate us? Use us as examples to the galaxy? Why would we do that? Torres asked, stepping up beside Sarah. Because that's what humans do, the captain replied. You take whatever serves your purposes and destroy everything else. Sarah felt a chill at the certainty in his voice. What's your name, Captain? Vexilon of the Korthak hegemony. Captain Vexilon, I'm Dr. Sarah Chen, and I'm going to ask you something that might sound strange. What do you know about human history? Vexilon's expression became puzzled. Human? History? You were the greatest military power the galaxy had ever seen. Your wars nearly destroyed galactic civilization. When you finally agreed to the Great Sleep, every species in the galaxy breathed a sigh of relief. What wars? Marcus asked. We don't remember any wars. Don't remember? Vexilon's 4 eyes widened. The ethereal pacification campaigns? The collective virus wars? The destruction of the Titan Nebula? Sarah shook her head. We don't know what you're talking about. We went to sleep to avoid a climate crisis on Earth. We were supposed to wake up in 200 years. For a long moment, Vexilon just stared at them. Then he began to laugh, a harsh sound that held no humor. They wiped your memories, he said. The elder races actually managed to erase your own history. That's impossible, Torres protested. Is it? Vexilon challenged. You wake up with combat skills you don't remember learning. Your planet is empty but perfectly maintained. Your own computer won't tell you what happened to your people. What does that suggest to you? Sarah felt pieces of a terrible puzzle clicking into place. Computer, access planetary archives. Historical files for the years 2157 to 2200. Data restricted pending security clearance. Override restriction. Emergency protocols are in effect. Insufficient authorization level. Torres stepped forward. Computer, I'm Captain Linda Torres, Earth Defense Force. My clearance level should grant access to military historical records. Accessing. Clearance verified. Warning. The following information has been classified as potentially harmful to human psychological stability. Show us anyway, Sarah said. The air above them shimmered as holographic displays activated. What they saw made Sarah's blood run cold. The records showed a different version of human history than the one they remembered. In this version, humanity had encountered aliens in 2159, just 2 years after the stasis program began. First contact had gone badly, very badly. The ethereals attempted to telepathically pacify human colonies on Europa and Titan. The computer's voice narrated as images played in the air. Humans interpreted this as an attack on their free will and responded with extreme prejudice. The hollows showed human fleets attacking crystalline ships, using weapons that seemed designed specifically to cause pain to telepathic beings. When the collective attempted to assimilate the Mars colonies, the computer continued, humans developed the hive killer virus. Estimated casualties, 14 billion collective drones. More images. Massive hive ships going dark as they're interconnected. Minds were severed. Sarah felt sick watching it. The final phase of the human wars began when the Luminous attempted to negotiate a peace treaty, the computer said. Humans used the negotiation as an opportunity to capture and study luminous energy beings. The knowledge gained was used to develop stellar disruption weapons. The last image showed a star going nova, taking an entire solar system with it. Total confirmed casualties of the human wars, the computer concluded. Approximately 700 billion sentient beings across 47 star systems. Silence fell over the group. Sarah stared at the empty air where the hollows had been, trying to process what she had just learned. 700 billion, Marcus whispered. Vexilon was watching them carefully. Now you understand why the galaxy fears you. Why entire fleets are fleeing at the news of your awakening. But we didn't do those things, Torres protested. We were asleep. The humans who did those things were asleep too, Vexilon pointed out. You're the same species, the same people, enhanced and trained for war. Sarah looked at her hands. Enhanced hands that could probably snap a normal human's neck without effort. Computer, were our memories altered before we were put into stasis? Affirmative. Traumatic memories of the human wars were suppressed to prevent psychological damage during extended stasis. What about the people who were awake during the wars? All active human population voluntarily entered stasis following the Treaty of Silence. Surface population was evacuated to orbital habitats, which were subsequently moved to the outer solar system. So everyone who remembered the wars went to sleep, Sarah said slowly. And everyone who wakes up now has no memory of what we did. It was considered the only way to give humanity a chance to change, the computer explained. To wake up as potentially different people. Vexilon gestured to his injured crewmates. So what happens now? Do you help us, knowing that my people might try to kill you the moment they think you're a threat again? Sarah looked at the wounded aliens, then at her own people. Captain Torres was still processing the historical records. Marcus was staring at his hands the same way Sarah had, wondering what they were capable of. Marcus, she said quietly, give me the medical kit. Sarah, Torres warned, this could be a mistake. Maybe, Sarah agreed, but doing nothing is definitely a mistake. She approached the injured Korthak slowly, the medical kit held where everyone could see it. The wounded alien was unconscious, green blood seeping from a gash in his head. This might sting, she told Vexilon as she activated the medical scanner. The device immediately began analyzing the alien's physiology and suggesting treatments. Sarah's enhanced knowledge kicked in, providing her with information about Korthak biology that she definitely hadn't known before her stasis. As she worked to stop the bleeding and stabilize the patient, she was aware of Vexilon watching her every move. "Why are you doing this?" he asked. "Because it's the right thing to do," Sarah replied without looking up from her patient. "Your species doesn't have a history of doing the right thing." Sarah finished applying a bandage and moved to check the second injured Korthak. "Then maybe it's time we started a new history." She looked up at Vexilon. "Captain, I need to ask you something important. When you crashed here, did it trigger some kind of automatic system?" "Yes. Our ship's exotic matter was interfering with the AI network that guards this system. That's what started the awakening process." Sarah felt her stomach drop. "How many people know you're here?" "The entire galaxy by now," Vexilon admitted. "The Watchers broadcast an emergency signal the moment you started waking up. So everyone knows humans are awake again." "Yes. And they're all either running away or gathering fleets to come destroy you before you can start another war." Sarah sat back on her heels, overwhelmed by the magnitude of what was happening. Billions of humans were waking up across the planet, with no memory of the wars they had fought. Meanwhile, the rest of the galaxy was preparing for either exodus or genocide. "Computer," she said, "how long before the first alien fleets arrive?" "Estimated time to Sol system for nearest hostile forces, 72 hours. The same amount of time it would take for all the humans to wake up." Sarah realized that someone or something had planned this carefully. Humanity would be fully awakened just in time to face judgment for crimes they couldn't remember committing. "We need to contact the galactic governments," she said, standing up. "We need to tell them we're not the same people who fought those wars." Vexilon shook his head. "They won't believe you." "How could they? You have the same faces, the same enhanced abilities, the same technological advantages that made you so dangerous before. Then what do you suggest?" The Korthak captain was quiet for a long moment. "Prove it," he said finally. "Show them you've changed. Show them you can choose peace over war." Sarah looked around at her team, then at the injured aliens she had just helped. "How do we prove something like that?" "I don't know," Vexilon admitted, "but you'd better figure it out fast. Because in 72 hours, this system is going to be full of ships that want to finish what they started 3,000 years ago." As if summoned by his words, the sky above them began to flicker with the light of ships dropping out of hyperspace. The first scouts had arrived, and they were already broadcasting warnings for the main fleets to hurry. The clock was ticking, and humanity's second chance was about to be put to the ultimate test. The next 72 hours passed in a blur of frantic activity. Across Earth, billions of humans emerged from stasis to find a world they didn't recognize and a history they couldn't remember. Command centers in every major facility struggled to coordinate responses as the full scope of humanity's situation became clear. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in what had once been the United Nations building in New York, now converted into humanity's central command post. The building had been perfectly preserved by automated systems, but it felt like a museum dedicated to a civilization that no longer existed. Around her, newly awakened leaders struggled to understand reports flooding in from across the galaxy. Fleet movements, evacuation schedules, emergency council sessions among alien governments. The universe was preparing for humanity's return, and most of the preparations involved either running away or organizing to destroy them. "Status report," Sarah called out to the room. Captain Torres, now serving as military coordinator, looked up from a tactical display. 47 different alien fleets are converging on the Sol system. Estimated arrival times range from 6 hours to 3 days. What about diplomatic contacts? Marcus, who had taken charge of communications, shook his head grimly. "We've sent messages to every major government. Most aren't responding at all. The few that are responding are demanding our immediate surrender." "Surrender to what?" "Complete disarmament and permanent exile to the galactic edge." Some are calling for the execution of all military-enhanced humans. Sarah felt the weight of command pressing down on her shoulders. She had never asked to be a leader, but the other awakened humans seemed to look to her for guidance. Perhaps it was because she had been the first to choose cooperation over conflict. "What about our own military capabilities?" she asked. Torres grimaced. "That's the worst part. The automated systems have been busy while we slept. Earth's defenses are beyond anything the galaxy has ever seen. We could probably hold off every fleet they're sending. But fighting back would prove everything they believe about us. We'd be starting the human wars all over again." A new voice joined the conversation. "Maybe that's what we should do?" Sarah turned to see Admiral James Harrison approaching. He was one of the few humans who had been fully awakened with his original memories intact, including memories of the first human wars. His presence made everyone in the room uncomfortable. "Admiral," Sarah said carefully, "I thought you were reviewing the historical archives." "I've finished," Harrison replied. His voice carried the weight of 3,000 years of suppressed rage. "And I remember now why we fought. The elder races tried to control us, to reshape us into something more convenient for their galactic order." "They were trying to make peace," Marcus protested. Harrison laughed bitterly. "By lobotomizing our colonies, by turning our people into drones, by negotiating treaties while secretly planning to contain us." He gestured at the displays showing approaching fleets. "Look at them. 3,000 years of peace. And the moment we wake up, they immediately assume we're the threat. Maybe because we killed 700 billion sentients," Torres said quietly. "In self-defense," Harrison shot back. "Every action we took was in response to their attempts to control or destroy us." Sarah stepped between them before the argument could escalate. "Admiral, I understand your anger, but we have a choice now. We can repeat the past, or we can create a better future." "With what?" Harrison demanded. "They're not coming here to negotiate, Doctor. They're coming to finish what they started." Before Sarah could respond, alarms began sounding throughout the command center. On the main display, new contacts appeared at the edge of the solar system. "First wave has arrived," Torres announced. "Ethereal collective fleet, approximately 200 ships." "Composition?" Harrison asked, his military instincts taking over. "Mixed. Battleships, carriers, and what looked like planetary bombardment vessels." Sarah felt her enhanced tactical knowledge kick in, analyzing the fleet's formation and capabilities. The information came to her as naturally as breathing, though she had no memory of learning it. "They're not here to negotiate," she realized. "That's an invasion force." "Incoming transmission," Marcus called out. The main screen flickered to show Elder Thesara, the same crystalline being who had sent the warning message days earlier. But this time, her light patterns seemed harder, more aggressive. "Humans of Earth," she began, "you have awakened into a galaxy that remembers your crimes. We gave you 3,000 years to change, to evolve beyond your violent nature. Your response has been to enhance your military capabilities and prepare for war." Sarah stepped forward. "Elder Thesara, we're not preparing for war. We want peace." "Peace?" The ethereal's light patterns shifted to what Sarah somehow recognized as contempt. "Your planet bristles with weapons that could destroy entire fleets. Your people emerge from stasis already trained for combat. You speak of peace, while your Admiral Harrison reviews tactical plans for galactic conquest." Sarah shot a glance at Harrison, who had the grace to look embarrassed. "That's not what we're planning. Perhaps not you, Dr. Chen. You have shown mercy to the Korthak survivors, but you are not all of humanity. Even now, military factions among your people are advocating for preemptive strikes against our fleets." Unfortunately, that was true. As humans across the planet had awakened and learned their history, reactions had been mixed. Many, like Sarah, wanted to prove humanity had changed. Others, like Harrison, felt that the galaxy had forced them into their first war and was trying to do so again. "What do you want from us?" Sarah asked. "Proof," Thaisara replied. "Proof that humanity is not the threat we remember. Surrender your weapons. Submit to galactic oversight. Accept permanent restrictions on your expansion and development. And if we refuse, then we will do what we should have done 3,000 years ago." The transmission ended, leaving the command center in tense silence. "Well," Harrison said, dryly, "at least they're being honest about their intentions." "They're afraid," Sarah realized. "They're all afraid of us." "Good," Harrison replied. "Fear keeps enemies honest." "They're not our enemies," Sarah insisted. "They're potential allies who don't trust us yet." "Doctor," Torres said quietly, "with respect, the Admiral has a point. They're not here to give us a chance. They're here to impose terms or destroy us." Sarah looked around the room at the faces of her fellow humans. Enhanced, trained, capable of incredible violence but trying to choose a different path. The tragedy was that both sides probably wanted peace, but neither could afford to trust the other. "There has to be another way," she said. "There is." The voice came from Captain Vexilon, who had been quietly observing from a corner of the room. His injuries were healing well thanks to human medical technology. "Captain?" Sarah asked. "Single combat," the Korthak said. "It's an ancient tradition among warrior species. When two groups can't resolve their differences through negotiation, they choose champions to fight in their place." Harrison snorted. "You want us to settle this with a duel?" "Not a duel," Vexilon corrected. "A demonstration. Choose your best warrior to face theirs. If humanity wins, you prove you're strong enough to defend yourselves and deserve respect. If the aliens win, you prove you're willing to accept the consequences of defeat." "That's ridiculous," Torres said. "The fate of entire civilizations decided by personal combat?" "It's been done before," Vexilon insisted, "and it has the advantage of limiting casualties to 2 individuals instead of billions." Sarah considered the proposal. It was primitive, almost barbaric, but it was also the kind of gesture that warrior cultures would understand and respect. "What would be the terms?" she asked. "If humanity wins, the fleets withdraw, and negotiations begin on equal terms. If the aliens win, humanity accepts their conditions for reintegration into galactic society." Harrison was already shaking his head. "It's a trap. They'll choose their best warrior, probably someone enhanced with 3,000 years of technology we haven't seen yet." "Then we choose our best warrior too," Sarah said quietly. All eyes turned to Admiral Harrison. He was the most experienced military commander, the most thoroughly enhanced human they had awakened. If anyone could win such a combat, it would be him. But Harrison was looking at Sarah. "No," he said, "not me." "Admiral?" "Doctor, you've been making the hard choices since you woke up. You chose to help the Korthak instead of capturing them. You chose negotiation over preparation for war. If anyone is going to represent humanity's future, it should be you." Sarah felt a chill of fear run through her. "I'm not a warrior." "Yes, you are," Harrison said gently. "You just choose to fight. For different things." Before Sarah could protest further, Marcus called out from his station. "Another transmission coming in. It's from multiple sources." The screen split to show not just Elder Thaisara, but representatives from several other major alien governments. The collective's Node 7, a luminous delegate, and others Sarah didn't recognize. "Humans," Thaisara began, "we have received your proposal for single combat through the Korthak representative." Sarah blinked in surprise. Vexilon had apparently been in communication with the alien fleets. "We accept these terms," the ethereal continued. "Our champion will be Weapons Master Krone of the Draconic Empire. He has never been defeated in combat." On the screen, a new figure appeared. It was massive, easily 8 feet tall, with scaled skin and eyes like molten gold. Its body showed the scars of countless battles. "Who speaks for humanity?" Crone asked, his voice like grinding stone. Sarah took a deep breath and stepped forward. "I do." The alien champion studied her with obvious disappointment. "You? You are no warrior." "No," Sarah agreed. "I'm a scientist, a healer, someone who chooses to build rather than destroy." "Then you will die quickly." "Maybe," Sarah said, "but I'll die representing what humanity wants to become, not what we used to be." The terms were set quickly. The combat would take place on the surface of Earth, in the ancient Olympic Stadium that had been preserved and maintained by the automated systems. Both champions would fight with traditional weapons only, no advanced technology beyond what their enhanced bodies could provide. As the alien fleets moved into position to observe the combat, Sarah found herself standing in the center of a stadium that had once hosted games of peace between nations. Now it would host a battle that would determine humanity's future. Weapons Master. Crone stood across from her holding a massive two-handed sword that gleamed in the sunlight. Sarah had chosen a simple staff, a weapon that could be used for defense as much as attack. "Any last words before I kill you, human?" Crone asked. Sarah looked up at the crowds of humans who had gathered to watch and at the alien ships that hung in the sky like metal clouds. "Yes," she said. "I'm not fighting to prove humanity is the strongest species in the galaxy. I'm fighting to prove we're strong enough to choose peace." Crone laughed. "Peace is for the weak." "No," Sarah replied, settling into a combat stance that felt natural despite having no memory of learning it. "Peace is for the strong enough to choose it." The battle began with Crone's thunderous charge, but as Sarah moved to meet him, she realized that this fight was about more than just winning or losing. It was about showing the galaxy who humanity really was, beneath all the enhancements and weapons and terrible history. They were people who could choose to be better than their worst moments. And sometimes, that choice was worth fighting for. The outcome of that fight would echo through the galaxy for generations to come, marking the moment when humanity proved that even the most dangerous species could choose to change. But that is a story that belongs to those who witnessed it, and to the new galaxy that was born from the ashes of old fears and ancient hatreds. In the end, the universe learned that its one rule about humans had been wrong. The danger was never in waking them up. The danger had always been in keeping them asleep.